first of all, riders, congratulations on making the Nationals teams. Very exciting for you all and looking forward for a good time away. So obviously, you guys do this most years. We just have a quick Zoom meeting to make sure you guys are all covered off with traveling the horses to the mainland. I've obviously had quite a bit of experience with that recently, more so. So if there are any questions that pop up as we go through this, it's really just a broad oversight of things that you should be doing, looking out for the people that haven't traveled before, just to try and calm some nerves down. The biggest thing is probably if you haven't traveled a horse over on the Spirit before, it's not that big of a deal. It's all okay and it's all pretty relaxed. As long as you've done your preparation early, there's not much you really need to worry about, in all honesty. So as we go through this, if you have any questions, feel free just to butt in or put something in the chat if you have any questions that we need answered a little bit later for you. So we'll get started. If I know how to go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so the biggest thing that we need to be able to do prior to traveling is we need to know our horses. And you guys, as riders, should be completely on top of this. You should know what your horse's resting heart rate is. You should know in particular what their temperature is pre-travel. So we take our horse's temperature quite regularly, especially just before we travel. So maybe like 5 days before you go on the boat, take your horse's temperature morning and night so that you know what's regular for your horse. Especially cold mornings, might be a little bit colder. Don't take your temperature straight after you've worked your horse because that's going to bump your temperature up quite a bit. But absolutely, temperature is your biggest thing to know if there is something wrong. Start a note on your phone so that you can write down what your temperatures are morning and night so that you've got them written down somewhere, you know what it is. You need to know your horse's lumps, bumps, and quirks, okay? And that is really, really important. You get a very sinking feeling if you get over on the other side, be it 1 or 2 days later, and someone asks you, "Oh, has your horse always had that lump on its knee or always had that lump on its leg?" As long as you know that they're there, it's fine. You don't need to stress about it. My horse, Ruffy, he's got quite a nice little lump on his knee, and it freaks people out every time when they see it. So I know it's there. I know what's normal for him. That's all you really need to worry about. You also need to know if your horse gets stressed when they travel so that you know what's normal for them. Do they drink from a bucket easily? One time we got over for Interschools Nationals and we found out that my thoroughbred actually didn't really know how to drink from a bucket. So that was very entertaining for us for the next 5 days, trying to get him to have water. Drink out of a trough, not out of a bucket. So that was fun for us. Make sure they're okay with strange horses. If they get attached, you need to know what they're like with mares or being stabled next to other horses as well. And have they actually been stabled before, especially for those who have newer horses, maybe in the last 12 months, have they actually been stabled before? The attitude does change when they're stabled. Ruffy hated stables that he couldn't put his head out into the aisle. So we found that out at Tamworth. And so now I have to get a stable guard to go across the door so that he can actually still get his head out into the aisleway. At Werribee, all the stables are able to be opened. The top part of them are able to be opened, so that's not so much of a problem. Some horses, they might want their space. They might want the top of the stable to be closed so that people can't come in. So it's just tiny little things like that that you need to know about your horse's quirks. Preparing your horse for travel and before the event. So you guys should be well into your training preparation now. What are we? We're about 5 weeks, 6 weeks out from travel. So I would suspect that you guys should be, if not already, but very nearly in full work with your horses. I know a lot of them have time off over winter, but you need to be making sure that they're getting the muscle tone, that they're getting their outing exposure, and that their ligaments and their muscles are getting stronger and stronger each day for ready for competition and ready for travel. Okay. Make sure, eventers, you're doing your galloping work now as well. You don't want to be doing too much the week of travel. So I won't go into it in too much depth now, but there is an individual performance plan that we go through with our horses, whereby we look at, okay, well, where is the main event? What do we want to be doing the 5 days pre the event, work-wise? Where are we going? What do we want to be doing? Pre-event, I tend to do quite a bit of dressage because I don't want to be doing a gallop straight before an event. We like to plan our gallops, a gallop every 4 or 5 days for our horses. So we start from the event and then we work backwards over the 6 weeks so that we can plan out, making sure that we're not doing more than one gallop every 4 or 5 days or one really hard session every 4 or 5 days. So that sort of planning, weekly planning, is really, really important to do to make sure that you're on top of everything and ready to go. Fine tuning any aspects of your training. Now, this can include anything from you might need to change coaches, you might need a fresh view on things, don't go to clinics, changing of any gear in particular, really, really important. I know that it can be a little bit scary thinking of changing things like bits prior to a big competition like this, but coming from experience, you're better off to try and change your gear now and early rather than getting to a competition and being like, geez, I really wish that I had something a little bit more useful for us. Don't be too afraid of or nervous of the fact of changing things because, or getting too nervous at thinking that, oh, my horse isn't in enough work at the moment to warrant me changing the gear because they're not in enough work. I don't know if I'm going to get the full effect. Just don't worry about that. Change your gear now. It will make getting them into work a lot easier once you have the correct gear. Arranging for your farrier, muscle therapy, get your horse's teeth done, any joint injections, etc. Sorry guys, I'm just going to move over into another room. I've just got a housemate who's just arrived in. So your farrier, you need to be counting back the weeks to get your farrier in. You don't want to be going over there and trying to find a farrier because that does not work too well. Joint injections as well. Work with your vet to make sure you've got your joint injections all sorted and absolutely get your teeth and your worming done. Feed routine. We are going to be going from a horses in paddocks to in stables. So changing your feeding routine is really, really important and doing that early. I don't know if any of you have ever engaged a nutritionist or someone like Camilla from Optum Equine, but the gut microflora and the gut health is super, super important to keep on top of. I use Camilla quite a lot for my horses. Ruffy in particular, last time we went over before Melbourne, ended up getting a viral infection. So I had to use Camilla quite a lot to be able to support him and keep his gut health well enough for him to be able to compete properly. So absolutely get onto your feed now because it takes a little while to come into effect. While we are traveling, I do 2 feeds a day. 2 feeds a day, morning and night. They're not very large feeds. I don't do a lot of large feeds. I generally do like 2 scoops of loose and some speedy beat to help wet the feed down, and then my grains and my supplements on top of that. So try to keep it the same as much as you can. Um, Also, you want to be feeding a type of feed that is well sourced and easily sourced, because you may find that you get over to Werribee or over to Sydney and the type of feed that you use isn't available. I know that that happened to one of our travel people this time around, and they had to change their feed once they got over there, which was not ideal at all. Clipping as well. Most of your horses should be clipped. Keep on top of their skin health, making sure that you're giving them I use a hairy pony spray or some QV oil, making sure you're all over on top of that to make sure that then their skin isn't getting dry. Preparing yourself for the event as a rider. Now, this is something that I do quite a lot more of now. Now that I'm older and my metabolism isn't nearly as good as what it was when I was a teenager. Um, Staying fit and feeding yourself properly is a hugely important part. We had some sessions with Amanda Ross, probably 12 or 18 months ago. And one of the things I said to Amanda was, look, Amanda, I feel good at competitions, but then I feel as though it's almost like I have a withdrawal or a hangover after the competition for 2 or 3 days. Like I'm really lethargic. I find it difficult to concentrate. My 2 or 3 days after a competition are really bad for me, mentally and physically. And she just came back and said, you've got to feed yourself properly. Do you eat at competitions? Do you drink enough water? I was like, well, probably not really, because I just run around and do whatever. So make sure you have lots of snacks, healthy snacks as well, not just lollies or shapes. I'm a sucker. I have like a box of shapes a day, especially when I'm traveling. It's really bad. So I've got to really make sure that I've got lots of access to fresh fruit, protein bars. Protein bars are probably my favorite, or the little protein bowls. Maybe you want some biscuits and cheese, whatever you need to be able to eat properly. And then it's the water access as well for yourself, because I know how easy it is not to drink water when it is cold. But it is so incredibly important to make sure that you're drinking enough water while you're over there. Get yourself one of those big Kmart drink bottles. Make sure you drink all of it in one day, and drink it early on in the day as well. So then you don't not getting up and going to the toilet all the time during the night, because that's painful at Werribee. Um, Keeping yourself fit as far as exercising pre-event. It is really difficult for us in Tassie for us to stay fit and go running because of how cold it is, and the limited access to light. But really, whenever you can, you need to be going out and exercising yourself to make sure that you are fit. Hopefully, you guys are mostly doing school sports or some sort of sport elsewhere. So that's doing enough to keep you fit. Make sure you've got your prescriptions up to date, any medication that you need, stockpile up on those so you've got enough while you're over there. I myself, contact lenses, I always tend to leave contact lenses to the last minute, and then I don't have spare ones when I'm over there. Cleaning your gear as well. That's another thing that I am terrible at, keeping my gear clean. Set yourself aside some time to make sure it's all clean, washed. If you've got spares, bring those over as well. And then the last one that I have is checking your mental state and your focus as a rider. So being able to segregate yourself, in that you need to be able to concentrate on what you're actually over there to do. So some of you may be trying to do schoolwork or uni work, or maybe you have things going on in your personal life. You need to make sure that you can do a mental check on yourself and make sure that you are actually okay and that you're focused, and you're not trying to multitask and do different things. The biggest example I have of this one is when we went to Tamworth recently. Um, and because of all of our breakdowns and everything else that happened, I was still trying to work during the competition. In particular, the day before dressage and show jumping, I was up until 11 or 12 o'clock at night on my computer in the float trying to do work. And that really severely affected me the next day, in that I had not switched off from my work to be in competition mode and look after my horse mode. So that is a really big learning curve for me. Um, and it's something that I proactively make sure I manage from here on out. Your day of your travel on the boat. Um, as I said before, traveling on the boat, it's not that big a deal. The horses and they travel pretty well. Um, you guys, I know that a lot of you are traveling with the Tas Horse Transport. They have typically they have automatic waterers in the trucks. They're well looked after. They're comfortable. You don't need to stress too much about them. The day of travel, feel free to give them a light ride. Um, we tend to say that a day of travel, i.e., 8 hours or more of travel, is equivalent to 1 day's hard work, or a gallop day in our case. So it's okay to give them a light ride the day before or the day of travel so that they're stretched and you make sure you're feeling good, even if it's a flat work ride. I like to give them the day that we arrive in Devonport. I like to give them that day off instead, mostly because I'm busy organising other things, but they can still have a stretch as well. As long as you're not doing any hard intensity work the day of travel and the day after, they're generally pretty good. Before loading them onto the truck or onto your float, make sure they know the horses that they are with. Feeding the soak loosen directly before travel. Now, this one is really important, one that we do all the time. The soaked loosen, soaking it allows the moisture to stay in the food and the moisture to stay in their guts, and so reduces the risk of choke on the horses as well. Loosen is also, it takes longer for the horse to be able to digest. So it means that it lines the stomach for much longer than what chaff would. As far as your night feeds or your typical feeds with like loosen chaff and your grains, don't feed a high grain diet the couple of days before. Um, I am on predominantly Pride's Easy Sport, and I don't have to change the amount that I give of my Easy Sport at all because of what is in it, protein wise. So I don't have to reduce that at all. If you're feeding something like oats or barley, you might need to think about reducing or halving the serves that you're giving your horse the day of travel, day before travel, so that you're not affecting their muscles too much. Muscle guard and gut support. Again, these are really, really important and very, very useful things to have in your float while you're traveling. I use the Cavalor stuff, so I have a tub of Free Butte gel, which is great stuff. I have Free Butte paste as well. I have Lactec paste, which helps flush out the lactic acid in their systems, and Gastrade. I also use, obviously, as I said before, I use Camilla Wishaw from Optum Equine to manage my horse's feed. She also does up a little paste for me to give pre-travel, which has slippery elm bark and some other things in there to help line horses' guts. What we're trying to do in all of this is make the horse comfortable. Obviously, they're not going to eat while they're on the spirit. So we're just trying to line it as much as we can to prevent any ulcers coming through. Um, in the float, if you're taking a horse yourself, lots of shavings. And if you can dampen the shavings down a little bit just to prevent any sort of dust coming up. Um, the last trip, the last two trips that we made, we did actually feed our horses soaked loosen hay in the float while they were on the boat. And we didn't have a problem with it. I know some people, it's a little bit of a touchy subject feeding the loosen hay in the float. What we did, we knew our horses, we know that they're not gutsers. They're not going to inhale their feed straight away. They've been on the boat before as well, so we know that they travel well on the boat already. So we soaked some lucerne, put them in slow hay feeders as well so that they could only pick at it. And now these slow hay feeders, the holes were probably about that big. They're not the slow feeders that have massive, massive holes. They're really, really small ones so that they really could not take chunks out of it. Whether or not we're actually allowed to do that on the Spirit is a little bit of a touchy subject. Some people say, no, you can't feed the horses on the Spirit. However, we had multiple quarantine people come in, check the horses, saw that they have hay, acknowledged that they had hay in the float, and didn't question it and just let us go. So maybe you get there and they might ask you to take it out. We've had pretty good luck with it all so far. The horse, completely naked, no rugs. I did try last time because I had a freshly clipped horse to leave a cotton rug on, and they said no. I had to jump in the float and take the cotton out once we were at the dock, so that was a little bit annoying more than anything. No boots on the horse, no tendon boots, nothing around the legs. It heats up the tendons too much. Head stall. If you can, I would definitely go with a headstall which only has buckles on it and no clips, just on the off chance a clip gets caught on something. If you do have a headstall that has clips instead of buckles, get some electrical tape and wrap up the clips so that it doesn't get caught on anything. Some people like to also tape their feet with around the shoes so that they're not really they can't pull the shoes off with either some duct tape or even just putting some bell boots on. No issues with that either. Once you're on the boat, there's not really much you can do, to be honest. The security guys and the people watching the horses, they've talked to us once we've parked. We've had a couple of really nice security guards that have been very good at checking the horses. Couple not so much. They kind of just went and didn't really talk to us. But yeah, once you get on the boat and you leave the horses, that's it. You don't get to go back down. They travel really well. They're secure. They're in their float. There's not much that they can really do apart from stand there and wait. And most of them are quite comfortable with that. One suggestion I do have, if you are concerned about your electric brakes on your car, or perhaps you've got, like me, I don't have a dual battery system in my car. So, and I have two plugs. I have one plug that goes into my electric braking system and another plug that does some lights inside my float. I make sure that I unplug the lights one so that it doesn't run my battery dead on my car while I'm on the boat, because that would be a little bit awkward, very frustrating. When you get planning to arrive at the boat, so we like to get there about 15 minutes before the cutoff time. So I believe if your sail time is 6:45 at night, the cutoff time to be at Devonport is like 6 o'clock. We try to get there about 5:45, 5:50 even. If you're running late, you can just call them up and say, yeah, we are coming. Sorry, we just had an incident with the horses. Um, one time we had someone who unfortunately got kicked and we had to do an ambulance and stuff. So they were completely understanding with it. If you are running late, try not to. The 15 minutes is a really good gap to give yourselves. They do leave you till last to load. So even if you do get there nice and early, you're going to be waiting around for an extra like half hour, 40 minutes before they actually put you on the boat. Once you get on there, open up everything that you can in the float, lots of ventilation, open up anything that you can. There's no internet unless you buy. You can purchase some Wi-Fi access now. Just pre-download some movies or some TV shows to keep yourself entertained. We do go straight. Once we're on the boat, we put our bags in our room. We go straight to the buffet and have food because we are so hungry. The buffet is generally pretty good, but you only get one plate, FYI. Um, you can ask your staff for checkups on the horses if you want, but we generally don't tend to worry about it too much. Collecting your horses the next day. Now, if you are taking your own float on the Spirit, please make sure you know what deck you are on with your horse. The last thing you want is like what happened to me last time. I forgot which deck I was on. Apparently, I was on with a freight. I wasn't ready when the freight people were supposed to go down, so they called over my rego number over the PA and asked me to come straight to the reception desk. I had a complete panic attack. I thought something was wrong with the horses. No, it was fine. We were just late to collect them, so that was well done to me. I think Brookie did give me a serve for that one, so that was fun. Once you get down to there, check they're okay, check that they're comfortable. If you can let them get their heads down, great. If not, get in your car, make sure that you can drive off and keep going. Don't let the staff forget about you. This happened to Georgie once when she was trying to get off the boat. She was sitting there, she was waiting, she was waiting. She was behind some freight trucks, and they completely forgot that she was there. And so she was waiting for like an extra half hour. She couldn't see anything because she was blocked in by trucks. And half an hour went past. She got out of the car and saw the staff and realized that they'd just left her there. So don't do that. Keep on top of them. Make sure you're aware of your surroundings. Where to get the horses out? So if you guys are going up to Sydney for Interschools Nationals, best place is probably Elko Park. Very, very easy to drive to, 15 minutes from the boat, if that. Heaps of space, yards, showers, toilets, water, anything that you need. Big yards to let them actually, if you want to let them out. And it's public access all the time, so it is a great, great little spot to go to. If you are just going to Pony Club Nationals, especially if your horses are on Tas Horse Transport, they might just take you straight through to Werribee and get your horses off there. That's completely fine. It's not much further. It is very handy having the port where it is at the moment. It's very easy access to everything. You get the horses off. First thing you need to do is just let them get their heads down, clear their airways, clear their esophagus, drink water, put all your food on the ground, soak it, soak up your food as much as you can, but make sure it's still appetizing for them. You don't want to give them a complete soup. But I wouldn't stress too much about shoving food into them or walking them straight away. Just let them get their heads down and keep it all nice and relaxed for them. I wouldn't start walking or stressing about them probably until a half an hour to an hour after they'd been off the boat. You just want to keep it nice and relaxed for them and let them do what they need to do. There's no real time frames on anything. It's just getting their heads down, letting them have a bit of a stretch, getting a little bit of food in them before you really start walking them or doing anything else. After your travel and during your trip, monitor all your vitals, take your temperatures, your skin test to see how dehydrated they are, look at their gums, check for any lumps and bumps. Um, One good tip is you only give your horse electrolytes or electrolyte supplements if you know they are actually drinking water. I go back to my story about the horse that wouldn't drink from a bucket. If we gave him some electrolytes and it probably made it worse because he wasn't drinking and the electrolytes just made him more dehydrated because he wasn't drinking. Um, if you're going into a paddock or something like that, take caution. They'll probably run around. Maybe you might want some paddock boots or something on them just to protect them. Uh, During your competition, horse care during your competition. So your horses will be yarded and stabled at Werribee. The Werribee stables are probably not the nicest ones, have definitely been in some nicer stables. So I don't know which ones you have, if you've got just the bottom closed doors or if you've got the top and the bottoms. But as I said before, maybe you want a horse that likes to lean out and have a look at things, or if you've got a pony, the doors are actually quite high. So if you do have a pony or maybe even just 15 hands, you might want to get one of the stable guards so that your horse can actually look out into the aisle and see what's going on. Um, Clean your yard or your stable at least twice daily. Clean out the manure as soon as it comes through. Make sure you've got lots of spare bedding. I think for us, initially we put down it's either 5 or 7 of the shaving bags initially, and then I order another 5 for the 5-day competition that we're there for, and I give it an extra, a top up each day of another bale of shavings, and that works quite well for me. Um, you do spot cleans with your stables. If you can see that there's a whole heap of wee or urine through the stables, take it out as much as you can, but don't be too particular about it. You're better off keeping the substance in there and the amount of the shavings in there and just putting some fresh stuff over the top once you've done your spot clean. Don't be lazy. Get out of bed, walk your horse twice a day, 3 times a day. Um, Eventers in particular, and maybe even the dressage horses as well, they can get antsy in the stables and they can get very boxy or energetic. You want to keep the energy levels down on the horses. So, especially when we go over and compete at Melbourne, I'm riding the horse twice a day at least pre-competition, and then walking them probably two or 3 times apart from that. And my rides, I do a pretty serious flat ride and maybe a lighter flat ride just to stop them from being too boxy and antsy by the time competition day comes. Your thoroughbreds in particular, I was advised very wisely by someone before my first Melbourne was the you work the bejesus out of them before the dressage day because otherwise they just explode with energy. And it was probably the best bit of advice I could have had at that time. Um, but yeah, getting out, walking your horse. You can feed your horse, give them breakfast before you walk them if you want. I know Ruffy was extremely cranky if I walked him before he had breakfast. Again, this comes to knowing your horse, knowing what they'd like. If I tried to walk Ruffy before he had his breakfast, he wouldn't eat grass. He wouldn't walk, well, he'll drag me around and back to the stables, so it's not fun for anyone. Know your horse, know what they like to do. Use your magnetic therapy, massage rugs, whatever you have, equisages on your horses. Don't be afraid to use them. And also, as a team, be quite nice about helping out other people that don't have them. If you are lending or if you are borrowing some massage therapy from other people, respect the items, don't damage them, look after them really well. If you've got your horses in boots, make sure they don't get too hot. Wrapping in the stables, I found the best thing to keep concussion or swelling down in my horse's legs was compression wrapping with pillow wraps. Overnight. So I just got pillow wraps, pretty cheap and really easy to get hold of. And then I just had some boots that I could, like exercise boots that I just compressed the wraps down in. And they worked really well. They actually worked better overnight than what my magnetic therapy boots did. So that was interesting for me. Keep them on, keeps the swelling down, keeps the horses feeling nice and fresh with their legs, protects them from any nicks while they're in the stable, and then the next morning they come off. If you do have a horse that does have a niggly bit of swelling in their legs, it's okay to keep that compression wrap on all day as long as you're taking it off to check it or to exercise or something like that. But if you've got to keep a bit of swelling down for whatever reason, you keep it on. And I'm more than happy to help you guys out with that if you have any questions with it, especially greasy heel. Greasy heel can be very, very painful. If you do have a horse prone to greasy heel, please, please, please get onto it right now. You need to start treating it, wrapping, doing whatever you can to help that greasy heel. And again, down the bottom, monitor what your horse's water intake is and how they're eating, making sure they've still got their appetite. Other useful tips I have for you guys are slow hay feeders are really, really great. Make sure the horses aren't guzzling their feed too quickly. Very, very useful to have in your stables. You know that your hay is going to last you overnight. Lots of bags, gear bags to organize your stuff. I know it is very tempting to try and minimize how much stuff you take over, but you don't want to be getting over there and wishing you had certain items. You also don't want to be putting all of your gear in 2 or 3 different bags and trying to sort through everything. The more you can segregate your items into different bags, the easier it will be for you. I have a bag for my bridle, a bag for my girths, a bag for my exercise boots, a bag for my stable boots, different bags for my work saddle blankets and my competition saddle blankets. Spare gear bag, just segregate it so it's nice and easy for you to rummage through. Saddle hangers and bridle hangers. So the stables at Werribee, look, you're going to want some hangers to hang your gear outside your stable. It just makes life so much easier. You don't want to be putting them on the ground, especially if it is wet at Werribee, which it often is. So get some hangers, even baling twine as well. So rugs inside the stables. We quite often just grab some baling twine, string it up across the stables, and we just loop our rugs through there so that they stay inside the stables, they stay dry, they stay clean. Trolleys. Having a trolley is a lifesaver, especially when your float is going to be a fair while, well, not a fair while, but your float isn't going to be near your stable. You're going to want a trolley or something that makes it easy to carry your gear to your stable without having to make 5 different trips. So maybe as a team, you guys can have a couple of trolleys that you share between a couple of people. It makes life really, really easy for everyone involved. Rope halters. Rope halters are great, especially if you have a horse that pulls. I would recommend having a rope halter with you at some point. You might not use it, but again, better to have it than not want it and not have it. Bridle numbers, have spare bridle numbers. So we always have one set of bridle numbers on our horses' halters. Anytime that they leave the stable, they have a bridle number on. They then have a separate bridle number for competition. So then I'm not having to swap between halter and competition last minute. It just reduces the stress there. And probably the last thing for you guys is have your team, have your group. It doesn't mean segregating people, but it just means that you know who you can lean on, who is there to support you, who is there to get you in the best mind frame, and keep you accountable for what you need to do as well. Having a good team or your good community around you is really, really important. I'm very fortunate in that I have a really great team around me these days. And there's no way that I would be able to compete without the team that I have. They're supportive and they keep you accountable is pretty much it without putting you down or without being judgmental. So if someone does need you on their team, please, please keep that in mind that you're there to support, and not to put people down and not to judge. It's not the time, not the place to be doing any of that. And that pretty much goes into the next slide. Make use of everyone around you. If you have questions, yell at us. You have access to a great resource of people that are traveling with you this year. You can grab hold of me whenever you need. If you need a look over your horse, it's not quite looking right or feeling right. There should be plenty of vets there as well if we need anything like that. Get onto any nutrition people that you need support from as well, and absolutely use your team that is traveling with you because they have an enormous amount of knowledge and you'll be able to rely on them. Right. Do we have any questions, guys?
Jess, I'll just make one comment from one life lesson learnt that I do feed lucerne on the boat as well, when I don't have really big horses and know that they can get their head down. But in doing that, I hydrated Bella way too much one year and she was in the back corner of our float and she flooded the entire spirit deck. And I was a very unpopular person the next morning when they had buckets and buckets and buckets of very hydrated lucerne whey. So if you have a hole in the back of your float to drain out, I suggest you block the hole. I've since put a plug in the hole and sawdust over the top. And the last time we travelled Belle, we put her not in the very back corner. So yes, you can hydrate your horse, fantastic, but just know where the whey is going to come out of your float because the spirit don't like it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We don't need to be pissing off the spirit people. Be nice to the spirit people, please, because we need them to look after us for future travel dates as well. They do the best that they can, and they do a pretty good job as well, I'd say, as long as they don't forget you at the back of the boat. Any other comments or questions, guys?
The spare shoes, Jess.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, spare shoes. I have my farrier. He makes up a spare set of shoes for my horse that I take over with me. Farriers are very difficult to come by over in the mainland because they're all so busy. If you have a spare set of shoes already fitted to your horse in particular, that someone will be able to just grab and whack straight on your horse if you lose a shoe, that removes a whole heap of stress for you. So highly recommend having your spare set of shoes with your stud holes in them as well. Beautiful. Well, are there any other questions, guys? No. Well, I think that we are all good then.